Welcome to Occult Archives, where we uncover the mysteries, myths, and legends behind history's most feared books,
From mystical grimoires.
to ancient religious secrets too dangerous to be read.
I like that.
Episode 251,
Ooh.
Assamese Demonology, Forbidden Spirits, Pagan Exorcisms, and the Hidden Lore of India's Dark Folklore.
Sounds dangerous.
We're diving deep today into a fascinating turn of the 20th century exploration of the spirit world,
Spirit world.
as envisioned in Assam, a region in northeast India.
Okay.
Our source is Assamese Demonology by Benudhar Rajkhowa, first published in 1905.
1905, all right.
Think of this as your guide to a rich tapestry of supernatural beliefs.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those areas that,
Direct for exploration.
yeah, I mean, especially for our listeners who are, drawn to different cultural perspectives.
Different cultural perspectives, yeah.
On the unseen world,
Yeah.
this deep dive will offer just that.
Absolutely.
A glimpse into, a world populated by spirits that we haven't really encountered before.
And their interactions with humans and how they went about sort of managing all of that.
Exactly.
So I think we're going to uncover some surprising details, I think, as we go along.
Absolutely.
Okay, so to start off, Rajkhowa breaks down the spirits into 4 territorial classes:
He goes.
subterranean, terrestrial, aerial, and celestial.
Right.
What do we make of that kind of a structure?
Well, I think this fourfold division really provides this initial kind of glimpse into how the Assamese conceived of the cosmos, right?
Yeah.
And humanity's place within it. So you've got, the spirits of the underworld, the spirits of the earth, the spirits of the sky, and then the celestial spirits. So,
The heavens.
yeah, and each one has a kind of a different role to play in the overall scheme of things.
Yeah.
But it's really the terrestrial class that kind of takes center stage in Assamese demonology.
In terms
At
of
least in terms of the sheer number of spirits that are identified.
And that's further broken down into aqueous, sylvan, and household.
Right.
So really emphasizing that immediate environment, the water, the forest, the homes, really shaping their understanding of the supernatural.
Yeah, it's like the supernatural's all around them. It's not this distant thing.
It's imminent.
Yeah, it's in the water they drink. It's in the trees they cut down. It's in their houses. So it's a very immediate and present reality for them.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start off with these aqueous spirits.
Okay.
And so, what kind of beings did they think inhabited those waters?
So first up, you've got the back,
The back.
which is apparently a very fond of fish,
Loves fish.
and was also believed to have a very offensive odor,
Oh.
to the point where it would actually taint the water that it frequented.
Okay.
It was said to use nets to catch fish, and it would typically reside in deserted tanks. So there's a proverb that goes, "A jackal is the lord of poultry. A back is supreme in a deserted tank."
Oh. Okay.
So that gives you a sense of
their domain.
their domain.
Yeah.
It's not the most idyllic kind of water deity that you might imagine.
Yeah. That's. Yeah. In other cultures, there's this idea of sort of a water nymph.
Yeah, something pure and beautiful.
Yeah, pure and beautiful, and
This is not that.
smells like fish.
Yeah?
And then you have the dot or daitya,
Right.
which comes from the Sanskrit meaning demon.
Right. Demon.
And this one seems particularly prominent in Assamese folklore.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the most frequently encountered spirit in Rajkhowa's account.
And he was known for these deceptive tactics, luring people to isolated spots for
Yeah.
all sorts of bad things.
Yeah, and sometimes he might even approach you at dawn, disguised as like a familiar friend and say, "Hey, let's go check my fishing trap," and then, lead you off to some secluded water course.
Right.
So you'd have to be very careful who you trusted.
So what did this dot or daitya, what did he look like?
So Rajkhowa describes him as, this tall, slender figure,
Yeah.
about 18 feet in height,
18 feet.
with these remarkably long spike-like fingers.
Oh, wow.
He's jet black, usually naked,
Okay.
and his limbs are kind of indistinct,
Okay.
except for those prominent fingers.
Right.
And he would, use those to intimidate his victims.
Yeah.
It was believed that he inhabited, channels, tanks, swampy areas, shady overgrown spots, even bamboo groves.
Right. Those kinds of places.
Yeah, any place where, there's water and it's kind of secluded and dark, that's where you might find a dot.
And one thing that really stuck out was the idea of his exceedingly glutinous body.
Right. That's a very unique detail.
A glutinous demon, that's memorable.
Yeah, so it's almost like he's sticky.
Oh.
Which, would give him a distinct advantage in any kind of physical struggle.
Right. So it's not only that he's got these giant fingers, but he's
slippery.
He's slippery, yeah. Hard to get a grip on, right?
Yeah, and that's actually going to tie into his weakness as well.
Okay, let's talk about weaknesses.
So the dot has this profound aversion to mustard green.
Mustard grain. Wow.
And this is why mustard plays such a significant role in Assamese exorcism rituals.
Okay.
Which we'll talk about later. But Rajkhowa actually speculates that this might be because mustard is, it's kind of slippery.
Okay.
So it makes it hard for the glutinous dot to get a grip.
I see.
It's like trying to, wrestle with an eel or something.
Yeah, okay.
So, the dot might initially appear as an ordinary person, but then it'll gradually grow taller and taller.
Okay.
And then vanish altogether.
Oh.
Or it might just, seize a solitary individual and carry them off.
Now, the spectral bag, right.
Right.
That seemed very important.
Yeah, so the dot is always carrying this spectral bag.
Okay.
Tucked under his armpit. And this bag is believed to be the source of his supernatural powers.
Okay.
So without it, he's basically powerless. He's reduced to a mortal state.
Yeah, I see.
And it was said that if you could manage to snatch this bag, either by force or through trickery, and then secure it in a granary filled with mustard.
Again, the mustard.
Yeah.
Okay.
The dot would become your bound servant.
Really?
Yeah, and he would be forced to, perform ordinary tasks like plowing fields and stuff like that.
A bound glutinous demon plowing your field?
Yeah, but the dot is always plotting to retrieve his talisman.
Oh, of course.
So, if he could deceive the master's wife in his absence,
right,
he would, regain the bag, regain his powers, and then disappear, leaving the bewildered mistress behind.
And so this spectral bag, what did it look like?
It was made of net cloth.
Net cloth?
But otherwise, it resembled a typical Assamese bag that they would use to carry, betel leaves and areca nuts and stuff. And there's this fascinating little detail where children were sometimes seen wearing fish hooks around their necks as a protection against the dot.
Oh, like a preventative measure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, interesting.
Very specific.
What about the other aqueous spirits? So we have the jock.
Right, so the jock.
Now, how did he interact with people?
This is a truly terrifying spirit.
Okay.
His primary method of killing is actually gnawing at your vital organs from the inside.
From the inside out, okay.
Yeah, and he was said to frequently take the form of a large buffalo.
A buffalo?
Yeah, often seen, splashing water with its horns.
Oh.
And you'd typically find them in the vicinity of, domestic buffalo herds.
Yeah.
So buffalo herders were particularly vulnerable
to jock encounter.
To jock encounters, yeah.
And a person possessed by a jock would reportedly bellow like a buffalo.
Yeah, so that's a very specific symptom.
Yeah.
And this particular type was called majak.
Okay.
Which, ma, meaning buffalo in Assamese, just to distinguish it from the other kinds of jock.
Okay.
There's also the Bioi jock.
The Bioi jock.
Which specifically targeted and possessed women during childbirth.
During childbirth.
Yeah.
So again, playing on that vulnerability, that liminal state.
Right, exactly. So very kind of insidious spirits.
Yeah, absolutely.
Preying on people when they're at their most vulnerable.
Okay. And then we had the Dashol and the Jenkakaria.
Right. So these were associated with, living near water courses.
Okay.
Dashol literally means living on the beach.
Okay.
And John Kakaria means living on the bank of a channel.
Oh.
Importantly, these were described as pagan spirits.
Pagan spirits.
And they were believed to be beyond the reach of Assamese incantations.
Oh, so outside of that system of control, those traditional methods of control.
Yeah, yeah.
And then finally, the last of the aqueous spirits, the Jelshai and Jel Narayan.
So these were Hindu
brother spirits.
Yeah, presiding over water. Unlike the Dashol and Jenkakaria, they might punish people for wrongdoing.
Yeah.
But they didn't actually murder people.
So sort of moralistic in a way.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a whole spectrum of these water spirits,
We do.
From the Bakar, who loves to eat fish and smells really bad, to these pagan spirits that, you can't even really control.
Yeah, outside of the normal systems of magic and ritual.
Yeah, okay. So let's move on to the Sylvan spirits, the forest spirits.
Okay.
And we start off with the Chaman.
Yeah, so the Chaman is actually kind of interesting because he's always referred to as dumb.
Dumb.
In Rajkhowa's account. And when he possesses someone, they lose the ability to speak.
Oh, okay.
His name actually comes from the cham tree, which is his usual dwelling place.
Okay.
But he could also be found in other large trees, like the Nuhor in the deep forests.
Okay.
And possession was said to occur if you know, cut a branch from his tree or even urinated beneath it.
Oh, so be careful where you pee in the forest.
Yeah, exactly. You got to be very respectful of the trees.
And then you have the Buradengaria.
So the Buradengaria is kind of interesting because his name is actually a title of respect.
Oh, it is.
For an elderly Assamese gentleman.
Okay.
And this spirit was said to wear a magnificent turban.
A turban.
Yeah, much like, you know, an elderly gentleman.
So almost like an elder spirit.
Yeah. And he also wore a wrapper and a dudi, which is a traditional men's garment of pristine white.
Okay.
He's depicted as tall, strongly built, and as beautiful as a full-blossomed rose.
Okay.
And interestingly, of all the spirits, he's considered the most religiously inclined.
Yeah.
He would even attend, you know, human religious assemblies.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, and if you felled a tree haunted by the Buradengaria without proper propitiation, so without showing respect, you could, you know, suffer from various bodily ailments.
Okay.
And sometimes the felled tree might even remain stubbornly immovable, no matter how much force you applied.
So he's got his tree and you're not allowed to touch it.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, he's very protective.
Okay. And then there's the Alakani.
So the Alakani is a female spirit.
Yeah.
And she's described as kind of this frolicsome imp.
A frolicsome imp.
Yeah, who resided in bamboo groves.
Bamboo groves.
Under this rather unique mushroom-like plant called Alakani Ba.
Okay.
Which means the cell of Alakani.
Right.
And it's only about 8 inches high.
All right.
She would apparently take these pleasure excursions.
Okay.
And she was particularly prone to possessing men.
Possessing men, yeah.
And interestingly, the female Alakani interacts with men more frequently than the male counterpart.
And the male counterpart is
like cruel.
Okay, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they gender those spirits in a particular way.
They do.
Okay. And then we have the Pisak and Fisiani.
Right, so the name Fisayani is actually a corruption of Pisachani.
Oh, it is.
Which means female Pisak. But Rajkhowa clarifies that it's actually a distinct spirit.
Okay.
It has no real connection to the Pisak.
Okay.
So the Pisak itself was believed to dwell in, you know, filthy, out-of-the-way locations, the kind of places you probably wouldn't want to go anyway.
Yeah.
The Fisiani, on the other hand, was considered particularly vile.
Okay.
She would secrete this frothy liquid onto the leaves of plants, essentially her spittle.
Yeah.
And if you came into contact with this, you would immediately break out in these severe itches.
Oh.
So definitely one to steer clear of on your woodland walks.
Okay, yeah. And then the Daini.
The Daini.
Which is often connected with Kali.
Right. So Kali is a, you know, very powerful, fearsome goddess.
Yeah.
And the Daini is, her defining characteristic is greed.
Greed.
Specifically cannibalistic greed.
Okay.
Rajkhowa actually describes how her mouth would water and her lower lip would protrude at the mere sight of a man.
Oh.
So, you know, very much wanting to consume human flesh.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we had the Peret, which seemed to be connected with the state of the soul.
Right. So the Peret was understood to be the state of a soul.
After death.
After death, before it found its final resting place.
Okay, yeah.
So it's kind of in this liminal state,
right.
Wandering around, not quite sure where it belongs.
Yeah, okay.
And a person possessed by a Peret was said to, you know, suffer from itches, boils.
Yeah.
Their body would be disfigured and their mind dejected.
Okay.
And in fact, the term Paresha was actually used to describe someone who was habitually slovenly or melancholic.
Oh, really?
So it was like this lingering spiritual malaise that they were suffering from.
So it had, you know, an actual effect on your personality, on your...
Yeah, on your physical and mental well-being.
Yeah, and then the boot.
So boot could actually be used as a kind of generic term.
Oh, okay.
To encompass all types of spirits, but there was also a specific class of spirits called boot.
Okay.
And these were particularly notable for their skill in changing shapes.
Oh, okay. Shape-shifting ghosts.
Yeah, very classic.
And then the Ketar.
The Ketar's name comes from the Sanskrit ketra, meaning field.
Okay.
And it's considered the presiding spirit of the field.
Oh, okay.
Or Ketrapala.
And the Ketar is known for its interactions with children.
Right.
Especially carrying them off.
Yeah. They were said to carry off a significant number of children every year.
And then there was another type that stole calves.
Yeah, newborn calves.
But there was a there was a way to protect them.
Right. There was this protective ritual that involved heating cow's milk until it thickened.
Okay.
And then you would place small bits of it on the ears, neck, and loins of both the calf and its mother.
Okay.
And the Ketar was said to, consume this offering and then refrain from any mischief.
Okay,
The
interesting.
supernatural being appeased by thickened milk.
That's pretty specific.
It is.
And then we had the Markuchia, which is particularly nasty.
Yeah. So the Markuchia was believed to harm a child while it was still in the womb.
Okay, in the room.
Typically during the 3rd or 4th month of pregnancy.
Okay.
And it could also possess a girl if her first menstruation happened at an inauspicious time,
Okay.
which, that was often seen as a liminal and potentially dangerous time
Yeah, okay.
in many cultures.
Yeah.
And if it failed to harm the child in the womb, it would continue to torment them after birth.
Okay.
So really quite malevolent.
Yeah, and then the Prasuta.
The Prasuta was a female spirit that targeted and possessed pregnant women.
Okay, so again, playing on that vulnerability.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
That liminal state.
And then there's the Khand.
The Khand is quite a horrifying demon.
Okay.
He's described as having a headless trunk with 2 furious eyes glaring from his breast.
Yeah.
He was believed to dwell on the seashore,
Okay.
and he would wander inland at night, returning to the sea at dawn.
All right.
And during his wanderings, he would emit these frequent awful shrieks.
From his windpipe.
Yeah.
And the name Khand comes from the Sanskrit Kabanda,
Right.
which refers to this, specific class of spiritual beings,
Yeah.
often depicted as headless.
Headless.
So eyes on the breast. That's
It's a strange image.
pretty memorable.
Yeah, definitely not something you want to see in the dark.
And then you have the Bira.
So the Biras are considered a particularly dangerous class of Ketar.
Okay, so even worse than the Ketar.
Yeah, far more powerful and malevolent.
Okay.
And it was said that escaping the grasp of a Bira was incredibly difficult.
All right.
So this is a real monster.
And then the Panamangali.
The Panamangali would cause fever. So if you were possessed by a Panamangali, you would be struck by this fever that would intensify over time.
Right.
And at a certain point, the spirit would actually break some of your limbs
Oh, really?
and then depart,
Oh.
leaving you with the fever.
Without the fever.
Yeah,
But crippled.
but permanently crippled.
So quite cruel.
Yeah, very cruel.
And then the last of the Sylvan spirits, the Paroa, who was a female spirit.
Yeah, she was kind of a lively female spirit
Okay.
who would amuse herself at 3 road junctions.
Okay, so again, that liminal space.
Right, that's a classic spot for supernatural encounters.
Yeah.
And she would often lead travelers astray.
Oh, how would she lead them astray?
So she would play this musical instrument called a taka,
Okay.
which is similar to the small drums that Assamese girls would use.
Okay.
And, the sound would be clearly audible to men.
Yeah.
And the travelers who'd lost their way, they'd mistake this music for, someone nearby.
Right.
And they'd follow it.
Yeah.
And of course, they'd just find themselves even more lost and alone.
Okay.
And if she really wanted to mislead someone, she would create this thick mist.
Oh, wow.
So, everything would become indistinct.
Yeah.
And they'd completely lose their way.
So both sound and illusions.
Right?
And Rajkhowa thinks that the Parua might be a corruption of the Sanskrit word pari.
Yeah. Which means nymph.
Okay, so that fits in with that.
Kind of a playful, alluring nature.
Yeah, okay. So those are all the Sylvan spirits.
Right. That was a diverse bunch.
And then we have the household spirit, the Garjoti,
Right. The Garjoti.
which sounds like a welcome change.
Yeah, this is a much more benevolent spirit.
Okay, so tell us about her.
So Garjoti literally means light of the house.
Okay.
She's considered a benevolent female spirit who presided over a person's home,
Okay.
kind of a guardian of the domestic space.
Yeah.
Her presence was often indicated by these subtle ticking sounds within the house.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and if you happen to sleep across a doorway at night,
Yeah?
the Garjoti might gently tread on you as she went in or out.
Oh, okay.
And it would feel as if a cat had lightly walked over you.
A very gentle house-dwelling spirit.
Yeah, very subtle and harmless.
Okay. And then the aerial spirit, the Bardachila.
The Bardachila was a female spirit who lived with her husband in a distant land.
Okay.
And she would make an annual visit to her parents' home in Assam.
Okay. To celebrate the Baihag Bihu Festival,
Correct.
which is the Assamese Spring Festival.
Okay.
And she would return after the Bihu concluded.
Okay.
And this journey was believed to cause the 2 strong gales that Assam experiences every year.
Oh, brilliant.
One just before and one just after the Bihu.
Okay.
So her arrival was associated with serene and delightful weather,
Yeah.
but her departure was more turbulent, causing destructive gales that could overthrow trees, raise houses, create other havoc.
Wow. So she really was a force of nature.
She was.
Okay. And then we have Jalkor again.
Right, so Jalkor is mentioned again here.
Yeah, he was mentioned in the aqueous spirits as well.
He was.
So is there a reason why he's mentioned twice?
I think Rajkhowa was kind of emphasizing his broader influence here,
Okay.
noting his role as the spirit presiding over rivers, drawing a parallel to the Vedic god Varuna.
Okay.
So he's got this kind of dual nature.
Right, just bridging these categories.
Exactly.
Okay, and then some additional terrestrial spirits, the Kabis. The Kabis is described as a Mohammedan spirit.
Oh, okay.
And it was said to occasionally possess Hindus.
So again, crossing those religious boundaries.
Exactly. Okay, so that's interesting.
And then the Halgiri and the Thalsai.
So these were local presiding spirits.
Okay, so very specific.
Yeah.
Thalgiri means master of land, and Thalsai means god of land.
Right.
So really emphasizing that idea of place.
Yeah, every locality
having its own
guardian spirit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of territorial protector.
And then finally we get to the celestial spirits, the ones residing in the heavens.
Right. So the celestial spirits included a lot of well-known Hindu deities.
Okay.
But Rajkhowa observes that some of these had, over time, been kind of degraded to the position of hobgoblins.
Oh.
Or hurled from their, proud, unapproachable region and placed in the rank and file of the spirit kingdom.
So they've been brought down to earth in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So he really focuses on the ones that, had this direct impact on human life in Assam.
Yeah. And who would those be?
So you've got Siva, right?
To you.
Beyond his, Vedic roles, he was believed to preside over elephants.
Okay.
And he would be propitiated by elephant keepers in times of trouble.
Oh, wow.
And he and his consort were also considered nuptial deities.
Okay.
Invoked in marriage ceremonies.
So still quite powerful, but in a slightly different way.
Yeah, more localized, I guess.
And then Jam?
Jam was the Sanskrit god of death.
Yeah.
He would typically ride a buffalo.
A buffalo, okay.
And the Assamese believed that his legs were heavy with elephantiasis.
Really?
Yeah.
So sort of a humanizing touch.
Yeah.
What about Bikaram?
Bikaram was derived from Vishwakarma, the heavenly architect.
Okay.
He was particularly revered by women
Oh.
because he presided over their weaving looms,
Okay.
which, was a very vital aspect of their daily lives.
Okay.
And then you have Durga, Shiva's wife.
Durga?
She was believed to cause measles and smallpox.
Okay.
And she was worshipped under various names, including Satala,
Okay.
to kind of appease her and ward off these diseases.
And then there's Kalika.
So Kalika is another form of Kali,
That.
who is believed to reside in anything grand, powerful, or extraordinary.
Okay, so very much a force of nature.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's Deo,
Dio.
which is a more common term for Kali.
Okay.
And a person who was believed to be under her influence was also called a Deo.
Okay.
And they would be filled with enthusiasm and the power to predict the future.
Okay.
Often sacrifices would be made to them.
As a conduit of her power.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And then Lakimi.
Lakshmi was Lakshmi, the goddess of plenty.
Okay.
And she was believed to dwell where there was peace and purity.
Okay.
And she was closely associated with the rice fields.
With the rice fields. Okay.
Yeah.
So you